far and away the most enjoyable and the most consistent season that I've ever been involved in.
Not many counties who competed in every competition.
I mean, it could be anybody.
I think we'll be even more confident next year. We'll be the most consistent side in the country.
What a wonderful piece of fielding. McGrath has got it.
Hoping we would win, we're now expecting to win.
Brilliant. 2 years, you're the best team in the country by far. Everybody seems to be trying.
It hasn't been a single person. It's been a great team. Everybody's contributed to each game in their own way and contributed to winning that game.
It's a good piece of work.
Yorkshire, Yorkshire, Yorkshire.
The side is just growing in confidence.
For a reverse drive, I suppose.
It may seem curious to make a video of the Yorkshire season when they haven't won anything. Well, the 1996 season was a remarkable one in many ways, because for the first time in several years, Yorkshire carried their season beyond June. No other county showed the same consistency that Yorkshire did in 1996. And with Yorkshire's new talent, it's surely just a matter of time before the most successful county win more titles.
I think we've played consistent cricket throughout the whole season, and players now believe that if they don't do it, somebody else will. As the results have shown, we've had players batting 9, 10 and 11 doing the job that 1, 2 and 3 didn't do.
I think the lads have played to the potential, and also we haven't had many injuries. I think I'm the only one that's been injured, touch wood.
There had a lot of youngsters coming to the side, and it took a couple of years for them to get into first-class cricket, get the feel of it, get the confidence, get the cap. And it shows this year everybody's playing freely.
A very good pre-season tour which contributed to high levels of fitness. Some excellent attention to training and physical preparation through the season.
Maybe matured a bit, more experience, and things can only get better because this side's going to stay together for a number of years.
The team has performed together rather than individuals. The team spirit's been brilliant ever since we came back from Zimbabwe on the pre-season tour.
All round attitude improvement. Micheal Bevan being here has certainly helped. A new captain, somebody else to lay blame on, and in fact a captain that's taken the reins and sort of said, listen, I'm in charge. I take all the not the credit, but I take all the rebuffs and things like that, and you just go out and do what you've got to do.
When David Byas was offered the captaincy after Martin Moxon stood down after 6 years, he had very clear objectives.
The whole time I've been at Yorkshire, we've been very much thought of a one-day outfit. Yes, we should win one-day competitions, Benson, Sunday. To me, absolutely. I think if you can play one sort of game, you can play the other. That's the way I've looked at it relative to selection situations over the season. Players can play 4-day cricket, they can play one-day cricket. If they're good enough to do one, they can convert into the other. And so I said, set my stall and said, right, let's try and go for the championship. We've been trying to get a one-day competition ever since I've worked there, and I've never achieved that. And so I thought, well, let's turn it on its head and say we'll go for the cream, which to me is the championship. If you win the championship, you've played good cricket right the way through the whole season. And that's what I set out, to do. And Sunday League came, and the Bensons came, and the NatWest came, and we were still in the championship right the way through to probably the last 2 weeks of the season.
His viewpoint was that we're going to try and win every match. I mean, it should be the aim of every captain, I think. But the way in which he played his cricket, he wanted the game to be moving forward all the time, and if things stagnate, then to try something different.
And I do believe that David, in his own particular way, has been able to bring on players, and I think some of the traditions of the old Yorkshire side are coming to the fore with David, who's a real winner.
His strength is his unflappability, his equable temperament, doesn't panic. I think that's good. I think he'll learn from it. I think 1 or 2 examples tactically, he could have done different things, probably changed the bowling quicker, and probably occasionally, because he's such a pleasant lad, nice lad, occasionally might learn from this season to actually go up occasionally to the bowlers, and instead of letting them have basically what they want, him tell them what he wants them to have and what he wants them to do, and that's about the only area where I think he basically could improve on.
The one thing he's been relaxed and positive. He wants to win or loss, and that showed in the Middlesex game where going out in the last over we were 9 down, we could have played for the draw, and he said, I want no draw, win or lose. And that's what we want, and I think Dave's a positive guy who really wants Yorkshire to do well, and he's been good, really.
That positive attitude was apparent from the very first championship game at Cardiff against Glamorgan. Yorkshire won the toss, and by close of play were past 300, with the openers still at the crease.
Start of the season, it's important the team, you know, gets off to a good start. It sets you up then for the rest of the year, and obviously personally to start with a double 100 in the championship, you know, was tremendous. And Varney as well played magnificently. And you know, we 300 and whatever it was we put on, obviously gives the side a lot of confidence, and we can go on from that.
The season before, I was, you know, disappointed that I'd got into the H's and I'd got out, which was, you know, it's poor batting. When you're an opening batter, you've got to go on to score hundreds and get big hundreds. You know, and I got 100 in Zimbabwe, which gave me confidence. And you know, I wasn't expecting the first innings of the season to score 183, but you know, I was absolutely delighted to score that.
Moxon and Vaughan's record-breaking partnership of 362 dominated the match, and Byas eventually set Glamorgan 260 to win off 49 overs, which at 202 for 3 they were on course to do. But the bold declaration was rewarded. They collapsed, and Yorkshire won by 43 runs with 9 balls to spare.
That win alone just set the tone for the year. It was a win which came out of an unexpected situation.
3 wins by wide margins in the Benson Hedges qualifiers against Nottinghamshire, Worcestershire and Scotland put Yorkshire into the quarter-finals. There was a casualty, though, in their final qualifying match against Northamptonshire.
Got my thumb hit in the Benson Hedges qualifying, and you know, the last couple of seasons with my thumb 3 times has been quite unbelievable. I mean, it's difficult to explain how you can be hit exactly the same spot 3 times, you know, which I have done over the last 2 seasons. I mean, it's quite unbelievable.
A high-scoring championship match against Derbyshire was dominated by the Australians. A century from Micheal Bevan and a double from Dean Jones. Yorkshire came close to the win when Derbyshire, needing 288 to win, were 248 for 8 at the close. But there was no let-up for Durham at Chester Street, where the home side went down by 144 runs. As they would be on several occasions this season, Yorkshire were indebted to the tail. Gough, Hartley, Silverwood and Stemp all made telling contributions.
As usually happens when number 10 and 11 batsmen and the bowlers start to get a little bit, they want to get you out rather than just doing what they've been doing all day. A couple of loose balls, a couple of flings of the bat, and the next thing you know, we're starting to put a partnership on.
The unbeaten run in the championship continued with a draw at Kent. After rain virtually wiped out the Friday, neither captain could agree a declaration target. David Byas refused to give Kent victory and battered out the final day. Unpopular with the locals maybe, but his 79 set him up nicely for the Benson and Hedges quarter-final against Surrey the following day. Now, few sides relish playing Surrey, the team supplying the backbone of England's one-day squad.
The lads were very, very keyed up because Surrey, well, to be fair, they were a little bit arrogant at times, and I think they thought they were going to beat us comfortably, and which spurred the lads on quite considerably.
They are an arrogant side, the cocky side. They don't like losing, and you know, they try to put that sort of prowess over who they're going to play. And it's always good to go there and thrash them, and that's what we did, pretty comprehensively.
We went into it with the same attitude that we went into every match this year, with the fact that we would win. And the lads just did what we've been good at. They bowled well, and batting, we just annihilated them. I mean, Dave Byas played probably one of the best innings I've seen all year.
In the one-day games, I played pretty well. You know, might not have got the volume of runs that I needed at the end of the season, but in one-day cricket I felt, you know, form was pretty good. Championship cricket form was sort of indifferent, sort of iffy and butty, and I never really got off to the start that I'd have liked. And it's difficult then picking it up from there. But when I didn't get them, somebody else did, so it was you know, relief on that side.
Byas, with his first 100 in the competition, was undefeated on 116 off 103 balls. And Micheal Bevan was still there on 65, as Yorkshire won by 9 wickets, with 13 overs remaining. Yorkshire stayed in the capital for the championship match against Middlesex. During the first 3 days, they were always second best. Only Peter Hartley's 88 gave the first innings some respectability. When Mike Gatting set Yorkshire 344 to win, an intriguing final day was in prospect. Until rain intervened and they lost 4 crucial overs, Yorkshire were up with the rate, but eventually fell 22 runs short.
Micheal Bevan's second championship century put him on course to be the first past 1,000 runs, which he duly achieved against Surrey at Middlesbrough. But that feat was overshadowed by Michael Vaughan, who almost single-handedly won the match.
I highlight the game against Surrey at Middlesbrough where I got 100, a 4-for and then a 90, then a 2-for, so I suppose that was my match of the season.
Darren Goughs responded to the disappointment of being dropped by England with 5 in Surrey's innings and an indication that this was to be his most productive season for Yorkshire.
I always thought I'd be a part of the one-day squad. It was just a test. I was a bit unsure whether I'd get the first start. I thought I'd get in the squad and just miss out in the end at the start of the season, but I didn't get in the squad to start. But it hasn't done me any harm. I've come back and I've got 67 wickets.
He had 2 bad injuries last year that took away a lot of cricket opportunities. When you've had injury and been out of the game so long, you can train, you can practice, you can play a few matches and probably play okay. At the highest level of any sport, you can get back 90% fairly quickly. But it's that little bit that makes you a bit different, a little bit special from the other players. It's much harder to get back when you've had a long layoff. And I felt he just lost a little bit of edge. He lost his swing a bit, lost his direction in terms of accuracy, and it showed in his performances. And this year, staying fit and playing all the time, he got it back in the middle of the season.
Victory by 221 runs sent Yorkshire to the top of the championship for the first time since July 1987.
I mean, I felt for some time that we were coming into our own. I mean, the younger players particularly are doing very well. When the traditional batsmen don't score runs, we seem to be able to wag the tail as we did in the old days a few years ago. So the only thing that would have halted this progress was the weather today, but we've been very fortunate and the clouds have kept away, and here we are, top of the table as you say.
Rain may not have intervened against Surrey, but it did to telling effect the following day when Yorkshire travelled to Old Trafford for the Benson and Hedges semi-final. It turned out to be one of the defining moments of Yorkshire's season.
Never come so close to winning and actually lose ever again. I don't think I will in my career anyway.
Real disappointment. No one spoke in the dressing room. Definitely one of the worst days in cricket for me.
With three months on, you still think about it, and you know we were so close to winning that match.
Unbelievable. I mean, the desolation, the complete quiet in the dressing room after, you wouldn't have believed.
9 overs to go, them needing 90. Your thoughts have obviously got to turn to Lord's finals, and then we didn't quite get it right to Mr. Hegg. Worst day of my life, cricket-wise. Got to be, without any question of a doubt.
Well, is that out?
Maybe the turning point was the catch I took and went over the boundary, and even now you think, if only I could have just kept my balance, I think we would have won. Caught it well, it was not a problem, but just the power of the ball, as I caught it, knocked me backwards, and then I thought, oh, where's the rope? And I was trying to sort of force myself to go forward, but I just lost my balance completely.
Beautiful stroke. Now's the danger time for Yorkshire.
Hegg played superbly well. It was probably more just his day. At the end of the day, when you look back on highlights, where he's been hitting those balls over point and everywhere else, not particularly bad bowling when you think about it. We just couldn't get him out, and us not getting him out, he kept launching over the boundary, which was obviously putting it further and further away from us.
Not to say too much on that, I'll just say I wasn't at the top of my game. I was a bit out of form, confidence was a bit low, and in those situations that, if you're not on top of your game in a situation like that, it's going to show. And it showed.
I normally bowl I always bowl at the death. I have done since I've been 19 years old, and that's one of my strengths in one-day cricket. And Craig's only started bowling seamers the last 2 years, but he's very good at bowling at the end of an innings. But he's not got the experience, really, of doing it, and he'll be doing it for Yorkshire for the next, as long as he plays, because he's very good at it. But on that occasion, he didn't get it that wrong.
I couldn't get it right. I tried my hardest to get it up there in the block hole, but it just wouldn't go. didn't go right for me, and you know, hold my hand up, I didn't perform my best.
It had gone by then, I think, really. A lot of disappointment had gone as well, but we should look back on it and learn a lot from it, I'm sure.
If he can go fast enough, and he does.
There have been many last ball conclusions in cricket, but few as cruel as this. From the very start, nearly everything had conspired against the losers.
I think looking back, everything was clouded against us. The toss, we lost that, the rain, the bad light, having 5 overs to bat the following morning, and to get on when we did at about 3:30, 4 o'clock time. People were pretty much down in the mouth, but I thought we pulled ourselves up, got up, and got down again, got back up again, and we got ourselves in a good position, you know, taking everything into account.
We got put in the bat, and obviously the conditions were hard. There was a bit of moisture around. I think we ended up about 80 for 5, 82 for 5, something.
But we're totally out of it. I said, we'll be lucky here to get 200, and it looked a good day. I think it just seemed a little bit the first hour, and we sat him to get the nicks. But Blakey, who's played well this year, and he's done well for us batting at 7 and keeping wicket, and that's been one of the reasons, I think.
Well, initially, I think you've got to look and you say, well, obviously we don't want to lose another wicket. But at the same time, in a one-day game, you can't allow the scoring not to continue. So you've got to somehow achieve a happy medium. And as long as Bev's there, I mean, he does that naturally. As long as he stays in, he scores. From my point of view, I just had to try and rotate, get him on the strike as much as I could. And it built up slowly, and as I got more confidence, obviously the scoring increased again.
He's been in good form all season with the bat without, you know, getting the volume of runs that he got, you know, in the latter stage of the season. The innings he played then with Bev gave Bev the impetus, and it rebounded back onto Richard and so on and so forth. But he's playing well, and he's played a lot better than he played last year, which you know, has made marked improvement.
And we managed to get to the end of the night. I think we put on just over 100. So we were back in with a shout.
In the air, Graham Lloyd, no chance. Beautiful hit. Richard Blakey has reached 50. Micheal Bevan is 73. And this is an outstanding partnership between these two. They've run brilliantly between the wickets, and they've chosen their strokes with great care. Been a lot of daring about it as well. It's been most entertaining. Brilliant performance.
Bev, when he's there, you're confident in the latter stage of any innings, whether or not you've got to go in with 4 overs left or 10 overs left. If he's going to be one of the players going in, you've got a certain amount of confidence there. Richard, as I said, the way he played that night gave players confidence as well. And it was important that those two stayed together for as long as those 4 overs, you know, as possible, which they did, and they did it as well as I've ever seen anybody do it.
Well, that's a great stroke. In the air, there is a long off, but they need to be back 20 rows of seats to have a chance of picking that up. Good hit from Blakey. Fairbrother is the fielder, but he's got no chance. Good hit again from Blakey. Oh, that's a great shot. That's his favourite stroke coming towards the end of the limited overs innings. Beautiful stroke.
I think we're still 10 or 20 short, but the players, we really believe we could win.
As their innings progressed, again we put them under pressure, and they were in a similar situation to us, and really we thought we had the game wrapped up.
Bevan got him. Brilliantly fielded. What a day Micheal Bevan's having.
It's out. That's out. That's one of the wickets to 100.
Obviously, we didn't take 1 or 2 chances, which obviously might have cost the game. You can never tell. But sad day. I think he just got an awful feeling, like when they needed like 12 to win even off 10 balls. It just wasn't going to be our day. You just felt as though it was just draining away from us.
A sad day indeed, and for Yorkshire sides of recent years, such a reversal might well have signalled the end of their season, particularly as the very next day they faced the county champions Warwickshire at Headingley.
So often in the past, when you've lost the Bensons in, let's say, the qualifying rounds, people, press, have said, "Oh, Yorkshire season's finished," which has been, ludicrous. It's been a terrible situation of playing because, you know, as players we're well aware that the Championship's still there, Sunday League still there, NatWest still there. And, you know, for people to paint that picture has been very difficult to play in. And I was well aware that, you know, the consequences of the defeat in the situation and manner that it was, that it could have, you know, could have folded then. But I think, you know, as I say, we've shown some character, and there was no finer time than when we came back on the Thursday to play Warwickshire here.
It's a key game for us. And I mean, the changing room was quiet on the morning, but we came out, did a field in practice. We all gelled together and pulled ourselves. So I think it's just sheer determination that you just go out and your will to win. And the next time to pull yourself up is so strong. That's what you've got to do, basically.
Warwickshire had also lost in the B&H semis, so both sides had something to prove. Gough and Hartley made early strikes after Warwickshire won the toss and elected to bat. Osler and Penny put on over 100 for the third wicket before Osler was caught and bowled by Silverwood. Yorkshire then took control. Gough's 2 wickets in 3 balls reduced Warwickshire to 173 for 5. And wickets continued to fall throughout the final session as Warwickshire were dismissed for 306. 3 wickets for Craig White and some relief for the bitter disappointment of the previous day, which had left him pondering his future in cricket.
I almost didn't. I almost got in my car and drove home. I was so close to, you know, not bothering. But, you know, I had a lot of support from my mates and in the team and, you know, people like that. I just got on with it. I said, you know, it's one of those things that's happened. You know, I can't do anything about it. I just got to get on with it. I ignored all the letters I got. Got some horrible letters and people chucking stuff at my car and things, but just got to forget about that and get on with it. Get on with your game and just try your best. And I did, and you know, towards the end of the season, I was playing some of my best cricket.
Although Yorkshire lost Vaughan and Byas comparatively cheaply, Moxon was in the sort of form that had led to talk of an England call-up earlier in the season before he injured his thumb. Now, some wondered if the burden of captaincy had affected his form in previous seasons.
No, to be honest with you, I didn't feel any difference as far as the batting side of it's concerned. I mean, again, you know, my best batting years have been since I've been captain, really. You know, from 1990 onwards, I've probably played the best cricket of my career. You know, and that was obviously when I was captain. So it's not given me. I haven't seen any difference really in that side of it. You know, obviously you go out and you try and get as many runs as you can each innings, and you work on your game just as hard as I did when I was captain.
Bevan was his usual dependable self, and Anthony McGrath confirmed his growing status as Yorkshire's number 5 with the gritty 65.
I've always been used to opening the batting, so going in with 2 or 3 slips, the new ball, there's a lot of gaps, so you can sometimes get off to a fairly good start, but you know, when you come in the middle order, after you've lost a couple of wickets, the field might be spread, the spinners might be on. You know, I'm used to coming in against the new ball and so on. Batted for a long time again, but came in at a fairly difficult situation, so I'm pleased with the innings.
On a flat wicket, Yorkshire needed a sizable first innings lead to put Warwickshire under pressure. That didn't appear likely as Darren Goughs strode to the crease with Yorkshire 6 down and just 3 ahead of Warwickshire's total. McGrath departed 15 runs later and Hartley shortly afterwards. Once again, the last 2 wickets made a telling contribution.
Goughs is a very good batter. I mean, it's been coming for a long time, that, and it was obviously pleasing for him, and we haven't managed to shut him up since.
I take batting quite seriously, but also it's a bit of fun as well. I go out there, I want to perform and I want to score quickly. That's my main aim to my cricket, and it seems to be happening this year. I think I've got 500 runs now. More than I've ever scored before, so I hopefully keep going.
It was a good knock. He played very sensibly, but he can do that. That's the great thing about it, is he doesn't have to go out there all the time and play on one leg, doing a pirouette in the crease and all this stuff. You know, if he goes out there and plays proper cricket, as he can do, then he will get those results.
When Silverwood fell with the score on 418, Goughs still needed 40 for 100. Richard Stemp provided the necessary support.
In the past, you've had Mark Robinson, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying so, that when he sort of came in, it was a case of get as many runs as you can quickly. Whereas this year with the likes of Chris Silverwood, Goughy batting at 9, Peter Hartley's also got runs this season, and there's always somebody to stay there, and as long as the last man, as such, can just pull at one end, then runs are always going to come.
Goughy got in the nervous 90s. surprisingly enough, Gough sort of player you'd think would waltz through the 90s and 4, 6 and that was it. But yeah, he got in the 90s and he was in there for a while.
It was great, even though I didn't show it probably. When I got the 100, to get it, it was a great achievement for me because people said I should be getting them, and to get it, especially against the county champions Warwickshire, who never give in the fight all the way, and against Pollock, who got me out in the winter in South Africa, I was very pleased.
Yorkshire's last 2 wickets had put on 150, and it turned the match. By close of play on the 3rd day, Warwickshire were still 86 behind, with 6 wickets remaining, Bevan and Hartley having taken 2 wickets each. On the Monday, Yorkshire wrapped up the game with a minimum of fuss. Gough picked up a couple of wickets, as did Stemp. The first half of the season was drawing to a close, and Yorkshire were firmly on course for the championship, 14 points clear of second-place Kent, having played the same number of matches. But those positions were reversed after Yorkshire played Leicestershire at one of their outgrounds, Bradford.
It was dead as a doornail, and we needed a result, and we lost the toss. They batted, got 700. Perhaps that was down to the players' attitude a bit as well, and I'll admit I was one to blame. After I bowled first 5 overs, I thought, here we go again. Another flat deck at Bradford or Sheffield, what always happens. And the players got a bit annoyed with it.
No matter what you're playing on, you should just get down to it and do it. And we've done that in the past. We did it here at Warwickshire. We kept down to 300 odd just by, sheer hard work, basically. And people kept their chins up and got on and did it. And it's disappointing to hear that, Gough was having that in the Leicester game.
They bowl well. Bowled us out twice and beat us easy. They played the better cricket on the day, with no complaints. As I say, you're going to lose games throughout the year, and on that occasion, we were well beaten.
Got thrashed, and we had to go on from that and pick ourselves up again. But it's a game I'd have liked to have won because they obviously ended up winning the championship.
It's a problem Yorkshire have had to contend with over the years when using the outgrounds negates home advantage. But from 1997, all cricket, apart from 2 fixtures at Scarborough, will be played at Headingley. Although the players will miss some of the outgrounds, it's a decision they welcome.
The atmosphere at Harrogate on a nice day with a good crowd is tremendous. That side of it you will miss. Obviously, Headingley, you're a little bit more detached, from the crowd. But all things considered, I think, it's got to be the way forward, best way for cricket and for the marketing side. And, without marketing and money, then the game can't continue.
Well, I have mixed feelings. In a personal way, I liked them all. I made hundreds on them all. I had won matches on them all. It's great, but I think in a modern day and age, the club has to run on a business level. You have to get money in, you have to get sponsorship in, advertising. If you have one central ground, it is easier to say to sponsors, look, we'd like you to advertise, this is the price, and they say, well, how many days cricket do you have? And you have very few at Headingley because you play a lot of matches on the outground. It's very hard to get them in, same with sponsors who want to buy a box.
I think overall in the end it'll be a wise choice. You want good facilities. These days have gone now where you just go and park on a wooden seat. And you've got to be looking to give the spectators some comfort and some pleasure.
To a degree, them clubs have asked the groundsman to make sure that the games go the full distance on a financial footing, but does nothing for Yorkshire cricket or nothing for the cricket club. And it's very tedious to watch, very tedious to play in.
We've appointed Andy Fogarty from Old Trafford, Lancashire. He's come over, he's done a fantastic job during this first season, and now our players want to play here because they think it's a distinct advantage, and that's a big, big change from what it's been before.
Some of these pitches we played on, like Sheffield, Harrogate, wherever we play, Middlesbrough, you weren't quite sure what it was going to do. So, you didn't know what to do when you won the toss. Whereas at Headingley now, we know what the wickets are like.
We don't have to stop in hotels because it's bad for the players. We get a home fixture and we're not at home. We're staying in hotels and we're never at home. We never see as family. Away, when we have home games, we're away. And when we have away games, we're away. So it's just, I'm just glad we're at one stadium now, and obviously Scarborough twice a year, which is good.
Making Headingley the base is the first stage in an ambitious development plan for cricket in Yorkshire. By the year 2000, the club will move to a £50 million purpose-built site at Wakefield.
There has been some reaction, as you expect, and as I would hope, actually. There's some wonderful memories here. That will be somewhat sad, but we cannot let that sort of handicap us in our aspirations for the future, because Headingley, sadly, is not a ground for the future. We are hemmed in by housing. The road infrastructure is not sufficient, the parking is poor, the access is poor as well. And in fact, not many people realise we do not own anything here at Headingley. Wakefield had virtually assured us of a £50 million entirely new stadium at no cost to Yorkshire. Was really too good an offer to turn down.
We put together a funding package which will mean that it won't cost Yorkshire anything. Now that's dependent upon the lottery coming up with the sum of money and us getting grants from Europe. Also the council are going to put some money in and some private investment from some commercial development.
It's 140 acres, the total site, so not only do we have a stadium, we're planning to have 5 other cricket grounds surrounding it so that we can promote junior, youth and women's cricket throughout the season. And that, I think, is an important part of our application to the Sports Council, because they're wanting the development of the game to prosper, and that's our responsibility as well.
What we're looking for is a stadium that will offer the best facilities in the world. We're looking at a cricket academy, a cricketing school of excellence. There's hopefully going to be 5 practice pitches where people will be able to play from the very early stages, working their way up to hopefully eventually playing in the stadium. The actual stadium itself will take roughly 18 months to 2 years to build.
The target is to have a test match at the new ground in the year 2000. That's with the millennium, of course, will be a celebratory year, and we'll be able to use the stadium for concerts and other celebration events, firework displays and whatever else we can dream up in the meantime. So that will give us an ideal opportunity there.
We have to move forward to a new ground, a new era, where Yorkshire control their own destiny and they can market it with an emphasis to give the public very, very good facilities, particularly the members of Yorkshire who had very little in the past for paying their subscription, and it'll have to form its own traditions.
Commercial reasons aside, it has to make sense for Yorkshire to base their cricket at Headingley and ultimately Wakefield. After beating Warwickshire in June, it was 10 weeks before Yorkshire next played a championship match at Headingley. 10 weeks of differing pitches and results, which ultimately cost them the championship. After the defeat against Leicestershire, they stayed at the top with victory against Worcestershire. For the first half of the match, it was Worcestershire who held the upper hand, and eventually the best Yorkshire could do was set them 233 to win, or survive for 3.5 hours. This they failed to do by 10 minutes, as they were skittled out for 121. With more than half their championship matches completed, Yorkshire were 19 points clear, having played a game more than their nearest rivals. Hampshire were the visitors to the Harrogate Festival and were made to struggle as Byas and McGrath put on 272 for the 4th wicket, a stand that hasn't been bettered for 75 years. Following his spoon-fed century against non-bowlers at Kent, Anthony McGrath deemed this to be his first proper championship century.
I think that's one of the highlights of the season for me. David and myself batted for most of the day. We're really pleased with the innings. I think I put that down as, my first real 100 for Yorkshire. End of the day, a bit disappointed we got out when we did in the 130s. We were looking to go on and, really get a big one.
161 in arrears on first innings, Hampshire were soon deep in trouble on the 3rd day, as Peter Hartley did his benefit collection no harm, taking 5 for 57.
In the collections that he's had throughout the summer, they're the highest I've ever known a beneficiary get at Yorkshire, and I think that speaks volumes for what people think about him. He's been very consistent over the last 4 or 5 years. Shows his experience now. He's a mature performer.
People keep saying, how long am I going to play for? And I'll say, as long as I can do a job. And if the captain and the club think I can do a job, at whatever level that is, I'm quite happy being there. And there's going to come a day that they're going to perform better than me, or possibly I've got to miss 1 or 2 games, or whatever happens to be. But I've always said that I'm not prepared to stand aside for them. I think that's wrong, because I think you've got to work hard at getting in there in the team.
Needing just 89 for victory, Michael Vaughan raced to 61 and Yorkshire won by 10 wickets within 3 days.
Yorkshire were now well placed in all 3 remaining competitions. After a poor start of 2 wins from the first 5 matches, they made up ground in the Sunday League, winning 5 out of the next 6. Surrey have been humiliated by 8 wickets, Leicestershire defeated by 36 runs, Worcestershire by 5 wickets, Northants lost on the final ball, and a 7-wicket defeat of Hampshire, in which Craig White took wickets and Micheal Bevan was undefeated on 98, took Yorkshire into 5th position, 6 points behind the leaders. The only defeat during that run had been against Warwickshire and was a particularly bitter pill to swallow.
They wanted something like 80 off 20 overs with 9 wickets left, and Warwickshire came back and won it. Having taken that game, we would have won the Sunday League probably with 1 game to spare at that stage of the season, you know, with the end that we had at latter stages.
Similar to the semi-final, the Benson Hedges, you don't forget. And at the end of the season, when you look back and you see how close you've been to actually winning something, those are the games that you think back to.
Yorkshire lost that match by 5 runs, and the game against Somerset a month later was even closer. Sloppiness in the field allowed the visitors to make 232 at Scarborough, and Yorkshire's reply never got going. Richard Blakey top-scored with 49.
We were always really chasing the game, and although it ended up we only lost by 2 runs, because we'd lost wickets throughout the innings, we were never really in a position where we looked like we were going to win. And although I say I got 49 and got us up somewhere near, it was never quite going to be enough.
Disappointment in the Sunday League was mirrored in the Championship with defeats against Somerset, Sussex and Gloucestershire, 2 of which really should have been won.
Somerset were nowhere known at all, and you know, we had to get a result. The wicket we played on was an excellent cricket wicket, one that I was well aware that it was going to suit them as much, if not more than us. You know, so I wasn't prepared for defeat, don't get me wrong, but it was a situation where you're going to send the whole lot in, and if you know, whoever's going to scrap the hardest is going to come out with a point. You can stomach results, you know, to a degree. The Sussex one I couldn't, and then I still grieve over it now, because that would have, you know, really given us the impetus for the last, well, 4 or 5 weeks of the season in the Championship. The Gloucester game we got thrashed. Courtney Walsh ball was out twice really without a problem, and you know, we never looked in the game from ball 1 at the end of the day. So I suspect you could say we were Walshed.
On the day, Courtney Walsh bowled out of his skin, and we were 15 for 5. It's very, very difficult to pull a game back from there. And you've got to accept that if a bloke plays well against you, then you have a chance of losing. And on that day he did. He bowled us out. We didn't play particularly badly. You know, the lads were caught behind, bowled, yorked. So it was very, very good bowling on his part. Again, it's a team where you look at the fixture list and you think, Gloucester, yeah, we're going to beat them. But that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in sport. And the worst side can beat the best side.
Now, if Yorkshire were having a tough time on the field, events off it were also causing concern.
They all came in one day and I was the first to get showered. Went to put my socks on and my socks were missing the ends. I thought, hang on. And I chuckled because I thought it was quite funny. I thought somebody had just done me. And then all the other players put theirs on and all theirs had been snipped, except for I think 4 players. And it was David Byas, Richard Blakey, Martin Moxon and Bevan's what had not been snipped. But Bevan didn't wear any socks or any underwear, so we thought, hang on, well, he doesn't matter anyway. And we left it at that.
I've lost 5 pair of socks now. They've been, and the worrying part is that they've not just been cut, they've been basically chainsawed, they're chewed to bits. So I'm not too sure who's done it.
It's happened on about 5 occasions where we've come in after the game and the socks have been snipped, underpants have been cut across the bottom, so when you put them on, there's no bottom in them, and we just can't find out who it is.
I did try and lure him out during the season by telling him that I hadn't been snipped, when in fact I had, hoping that he would come and tell me that I had been snipped and I would have caught the snipper.
Yorkshire's NatWest campaign started at Headingley against Nottinghamshire, a match in which Yorkshire were always comfortably in control. The foundation for that imposing total of 347 was a first-wicket partnership of 143 between Moxon and Vaughan. Moxon was the more assertive of the two, and a pull for 6, a fitting way for him to pass 1,000 runs in the competition. After Vaughan was dismissed for 64, Moxon went on to make his second NatWest 100, and his performance ensured that Yorkshire would go through to the next round. His final score of 137 was only 3 short of Nott's eventual total, with Stemp the pick of the bowlers.
Got 4 for 45 and got capped. So I think that would have to be my highlight of the season.
Yorkshire then faced a potentially tricky tie against Middlesex.
Side of Middlesex, Gap, Ramprakash, Fraser, you know, the whole lot they were playing, and it was a tough draw to get them early doors in it. A further, you know, competition we wanted to go and do well in, and we beat them comprehensively.
An excellent delivery by Silverwood accounted for Ramprakash, and Middlesex was soon up against it at 77 for 4. Were it not for man of the match Paul Weeks, they might have struggled to 100. He contributed 104 to their eventual total of 199 off the full 60 overs. No one could provide Weeks with any support. Only one stand got past 50. For Yorkshire, Chris Silverwood was the pick of the bowlers with 3 for 45. Even though Moxon and Vaughan's dismissals gave Middlesex bowlers some hope, 199 was never going to be enough, especially as David Byas found his best one-day form to reach a fifth 50 in the competition. As ever, Bevan provided good support with 41, and McGrath was undefeated on 32. As Yorkshire raced past the Middlesex total with 16 overs remaining, with Byas on 73 not out.
Even at this stage in the season, Jack was still cutting those socks.
I can honestly say that it's not me, but I am under suspicion because I've not been done yet on any occasion. So, although the lads sort of said, nah, it can't be Frog, but you know, there may be a few voices saying, well, he's not actually had his socks snipped yet, so...
I'm actually one of the few people in the team who actually is out of the equation, as Jack the Snipper has not actually struck while I've been in the dressing room, so I've been away on England duty each time he struck, so there's possibly a tail in that.
They seem to be pointing at me and Anthony, but obviously with the youngest in the side, I like a bit of a joke, and it's obviously come to us, but unfortunately this time it's not me.
Whoever's doing it is good. He is good, and I'm sure he'll be back, but we haven't caught him as yet.
I don't think they should bother trying. I think I'd have been a bit miffed and a bit cross if they'd cut the toes out of my socks just as I was putting them on in the morning. But I think the thing is, what is more important, what it does show, the dressing room is good. There's a sense of humour with everybody. And you can't play cricket, you can't do your job, whatever job you do, if there isn't a good united spirit between the players. So I'm pleased about that.
Hove and a passionate Sussex crowd was the next port of call for the quarter-finals.
The full house there, which, all right, maybe it was only about 5,000 people, but it was just another game for us.
For them it was a massive game, and I think the pressure, you could tell the pressure on them. And we'd already been involved in several big matches, and we knew what we had to do. We got on with our bowling, we fielded tight, and that's all you can do in those situations. And the pressure got to them, and they lost wickets.
Simple and out. What a catch from Darren the Dazzler. Trouble here if he hits.
Sussex lost 5 wickets for just 9 runs as Gough's second spell precipitated a middle-order collapse.
He's done it several times this year. He bowls fast, he bowls his Yorker, he gets it right on target, and that's very, very difficult to keep out when he's in that mood.
Not much doubt about that. A strong fielding performance left the visitors needing just 213 runs for victory.
It started well. I think, you know, in any one-day game it's important from a batting point of view that you get off to a good start. If you get it a couple of 4s early on, then it gives you the confidence and you're up and away.
Beautiful stroke. Oh, that's a beautiful stroke.
We got the momentum going. We were on a high because we'd restricted Sussex to a moderate sort of total.
Yorkshire lost a couple of wickets when they found Salisbury difficult to get away.
No question that Salisbury's been the pick of the Sussex bowlers.
I think we ended up about 170 for 5. So you know, in the past things might have gone away from us, but myself and Craig just went out there. We said, come on, we'll see us through, and we ended up doing it comfortably.
A good clean hit as well. And an equally good stroke. In fact, that was probably better than the previous one. Got himself right over the top of it, played it away well, and Yorkshire have won this quarter-final against Sussex.
That victory put Yorkshire into the semi-finals, but once again, they were drawn away at Old Trafford.
Yeah, 2 games against them, but worstly 2 games away from home. I think that was a disappointing thing. We'd played in 4 games, 2 quarters and 2 semis, and this year they were all away from home, so obviously they're very difficult ties.
It was a fantastic feeling to get out there, to just be competing basically at that sort of level, and to actually realise that you were in a semi-final. It was magnificent.
I don't think we feared anything going into the NatWest semi-final. We just, you know, we all wanted desperately to beat them and get into the final for as supporters, you know, not just ourselves.
And there's all sorts of might be trouble. Jason Gallion goes. That's a good shot off the meat.
I think it's mental preparation. You sort of go into the nets at the start, turn your arm over. I say turn your arm over a little bit more seriously than that, but you try and work out a pace to run in at, a pace to bowl at. And once you've got that, then it's just mental, you know, it's you against him, it's your bottle against his bottle. And you just keep doing what you've got to do and wait until he does something he shouldn't do.
McGrath, all over for Neil Fairbrother.
When the ball went in the air, my first thoughts were, make sure you don't drop it or you're going to get quite a bit of stick. Managed to stick and I relaxed after that. I think with the second one I was probably a bit too relaxed with the Graham Lloyd one. Maybe that's why I dropped it.
If McGrath had caught Lloyd, Lancashire would have been 117 for 4. Instead, Lloyd and Crawley put on another 80 until McGrath got another chance.
Well, what a way to strike. What a magnificent effort that was. And Bevan has done the trick. But what a catch.
Not that I wanted an Old Trafford tie, but I was confident that we could have gone there and beaten them. You know, I thought there was 1 or 2 things we didn't bowl Bevan, the Benson, and that was a further thing that I felt that, you know, they hadn't seen.
Brilliant catch. What a catch. He knows what to do after he's caught it as well. A mini lap of honour, but he deserves it. Nice footwork.
I was quite confident that we would have come away with the result that we wanted, but I think the NatWest game they were 10% better than us in all departments. I think they batted better than us, bowled and fielded better than us.
We got tied down a little bit when their spinners bowled. We needed to knock it around a bit, try and get it 6 and over. Then all of a sudden, lost a few wickets. All of a sudden, it was up to 8, 9 and over. And it's hard for new batsmen to come in and try and knock the ball around at 9 and over.
And he's got it. It's a great shot.
They deserved to win the game. That it got not tight at the end, but you know we got reasonably near at the end. But as I said, they were the better side on the day and deserved to win it.
Immediately after the NatWest semi-final, Micheal Bevan left to join the Australian touring party to Sri Lanka. And whatever his future may be with the county, nothing can diminish the contribution he's made to Yorkshire in the last 2 years.
Micheal Bevan, I mean, I see him now as probably the best overseas player in the game in this country.
I came over for experience to work on my game, and it was an enjoyable experience.
Oh yes, I won't belittle Micheal Bevan one bit. He's been a great contribution to the side, both playing and from the public. I mean, you don't have to go even to the games, and the public are telling you, oh, you know, this Bevan's done a lot.
For me, Micheal Bevan is one of the reasons that Yorkshire have been successful. Without Micheal Bevan, we've still won games, but I think we've won some of those games partly because of some of the influence that he's left with us.
It's the next best thing to a Yorkshireman, basically. I think he's getting an Aussie. He hates losing. I mean, I can't stand losing at the best of times. And, you know, he blends in so well to that because, as I say, Aussies, they don't like losing. They're arrogant and, you know, they're pretty much straight to the point.
On the pitch, he gives you 120%, without any question of a doubt. He's typically Aussie. He's arrogant. He's cocksure of himself. And he works at his game. He thinks about his game, works at it, you know, and you've got to do that.
What Bev's brought in is a similar age to me and most of the lads in our team, as we're a young side. And he just brings in their way of thinking, their confidence.
Yeah, well, I'm not the type of person that would sit back and just let things happen. I get actively involved in discussions both with the players and the administration. So, you know, that's happened quite a number of times.
And even on some stages where we think we're confident, I can see we're not, and he sees it and he says it, and that's what a lot of people might think. Oh, he's for saying what he feels. But that's the way you can only get, that's the way he's been brought up, that's the way Steve Waugh probably talks to him, that's the way Mark Taylor talks to him.
It's not like I say something and they do it straight away. I mean, Yorkshire, not only Yorkshire but England, they've sort of got a, you know, a fair bit on the tradition side, and you know, a lot of times they're slow to change, and it's not something you can change that quickly after having, you know, being, you know, relatively in the bottom half for 15 years. It takes, you know, a number of years to turn that around.
Some of it is very constructive. Some of it isn't quite so constructive, but then, you know, he'll get told to shut up just like everybody else on the side if he's talking a little bit of rubbish. So, you know, he's got some very good things to say.
Because when he came into the New South Wales team, I think there was 8 Test players, and like he was in there, and he was in there with all these people, and he's got to try and keep them out to keep in the side.
Like so many Australians, when Bevan's opportunity came, he took it in no uncertain fashion. He made a century on his state debut, and then became only the 3rd player to score 5 Sheffield Shield centuries in 6 innings. It was an extraordinary performance from someone who became a batsman more by chance than design.
Well, I had a back injury when I was about, I think, 17 or 18, which basically stopped me from opening the bowling. To tell you the truth, I never thought I was much good at batting. I suppose if you ask some people, they say the same now. But you know, I had a goal to make the Australian under-19s one year. Because of being from Canberra, I thought it would sort of give me a name if I could make it and go to another state and play. And so I desperately wanted to make the Australian under-19s. I had no idea how I would do it when my back went. So I took up batting, and it just sort of clicked for me, and things started to happen with the bat.
After setting a new aggregate record for New South Wales, Bevan was called into the national side for the tour to Pakistan. Nor did he seem particularly fazed by the fact that the batting slot he took previously belonged to the highest test run maker of all time, Alan Border. Bevan scored 82 on his debut and averaged 60.76 for the series. It was during this time that he was recommended to Yorkshire, whose record with overseas players hadn't been very impressive.
Originally, of course, there was a move here that we wanted a fast bowler because our bowling wasn't terribly strong. When Craig McDermott sort of let us down at the last minute through injury, we turned to Sachin, and Sachin did okay, but he wasn't, you know, as big a success as we would have liked. And then Richie Richardson was somewhat disappointing. So we did think that maybe a younger player who had a lot to prove might be the line to take, because Australians are good with their attitude and their desire and their passion for the game. So we really struck it just right on that occasion.
No sooner had Bevan signed that his upward curved career suffered a setback, and he was a rare Aussie failure during the Ashes series of 1994-95.
I can't say there was one thing or another. I just wasn't playing well. My confidence was low, which is hard to sort of believe after the start to Test cricket I had. But you know, that's I guess what consistency's about. I can't put it down to anything. It was just a bad run. Everyone has them. It just happened to be 3 bad tests, and really, you know, in the last sort of 3 years, that's been the only bad run I've really had. So I can't dwell on it too much. I just had to get on with it.
That's very well bowled, and boy did he enjoy that. Bevan got himself in a terrible tangle. Didn't look as if he'd picked the short one at all.
Any doubt Yorkshire may have had about the new signing was soon dispelled, as Bevan quickly established himself as the county's most successful overseas recruit yet. In his first season, he averaged just under 50 in the Championship and set a new club record for runs scored in the Sunday League. But more important than statistics, he was a fighter. And his popularity with the Yorkshire faithful was sealed the day he steered the county home in the NatWest quarter-finals against Lancashire.
I guess in those situations, you get to the point where you can either win a match or lose a match for your side. And I guess it depends how you react in those situations. Personally, I guess it sounds funny, but I couldn't care whether we won or lost. I think you can only do your best, and whatever happens, happens. But I think my game suits a one-day game because I hit into the gaps and I seem to be able to score fairly freely. But if you get in those situations, sometimes it comes off, you know, other times it doesn't.
The attitude he shows, not only to batting, but everything else, it's always positive, and it's rubbed off on the rest of the team. I think, you know, that's part of our success. Everyone's positive, confident.
He's extremely aggressive in the way he plays his cricket. He's an excellent lead in some ways to the other players, and he brings a new feeling of not being afraid to lose, to go all out for a win. Of course, because he's an aggressive Australian, of course, it rubs some people up the wrong way. Some people don't get on with him, and up the field you sometimes have difficulties.
And that's a cracker. He was down the track like a panther for that.
You can see how he plays one-day cricket and how he bats in one-day cricket. We're all learning from the way he actually dictates the innings to the opposition. That's what everyone's trying to learn from, and it's been a great signing for Yorkshire.
I think he's good enough in his attitude and his play. We've got in most of the good sides in the past. And I think that attitude and positive way he plays, the Australian way as I call it, I mean there's lots of them out there that play just that way, are the type of way I was brought up to play in the 60s. And I think he's been a big plus for Yorkshire.
He scored prolifically every season, he really did. Which, the position he was going in at 4, it stabilised everything, it allowed the middle order to play around him. And, we all benefited greatly from him. You can't really put a value to him.
In 1996, Bevan was more prolific than ever. And whilst he has nothing to prove at county level, he does at Test. He's certainly one of Australia's finest one-day players, and it's quite likely he'll play a key role in the forthcoming Ashes series. Whatever happens, he'll always be welcomed at Headingley, where the door is always open.
We shall only be looking to sign a replacement for 1 year, because we have said to Michael we would like him in 98 and 99 and onwards.
Yorkshire will delay any decision on an overseas player until they know whether Bevan is with the Ashes party. Now clearly he would love another crack at Lancashire because he missed their trip to Headingley for the Championship and Sunday League. The 4-day game was a personal triumph for Craig White. According to England selector Brian Bowles, his career best 181 was one of the best innings of the summer.
Batting against Lancashire in that 4-day game, there was a lot of things egging me on in my head, saying, remember the Benson and Hedges, remember that, Nat West. And I just wanted to, prove to myself and maybe Lancashire players that I can play. And the rest history, 180, 181, career best.
Craig White wasn't the only one to enhance his winter tour prospects. Darren Goughs took 8 wickets in the match as Lancashire were forced to follow on after Yorkshire had piled on 529 for 8 declared. But with 5 wickets down and still 6 runs in arrears, Lancashire was saved by the weather, and the draw effectively put Yorkshire out of the Championship. With pride and prize money to play for, 2 wins and a draw took Yorkshire to 6th in the Championship, a finishing position they haven't bettered in 18 years. One of those wins included a tremendous victory against the Championship leaders Essex. After Yorkshire were bowled out for 290, Craig White top-scored with 76. Essex established a first innings lead of 82 and then reduced Yorkshire to 91 for 5. All the visitors thought they had to do was to turn up on Saturday to collect the full points, and they'd be away by lunch.
We turned up on the Saturday staring defeat, blatant in the face with no disrespect to Richard Kettleborough or Richard Blake at the time, but it was a tall order to turn it round, to save it, and let alone win it, was going to be phenomenal. But they did it, and they achieved it with great success.
Talking to an old friend Paul Grayson on the Friday night, he thought they'd be off down the motorway on the Saturday lunchtime, but no, it's a funny game cricket and we were still there, battling it out, and I say the runs came and came and came.
We have used very, very little of the second team boys. What was pleasing though at the end of the season when Mike had to go away, Richard Kettleborough came in, Gavin Hamilton came in, and in fact won a game that we turned up basically to get bowled out.
I've played cricket with Gavin for quite a few years now, and that is by far the best I've ever seen him play. He just came in and played some great shots. He took it to the bowlers, which it wasn't easy to do, but he had a bit of luck and got away with it and played some great shots. And really that took the pressure off. And then they took the new ball and tried to knock our heads off of it, which was probably to our advantage on that pitch, and which got a few more runs, and they were getting a bit more ratty because the pressure was building up and we were getting a bigger and bigger lead. And anything over 150 would have been a difficult target on there. I'll say we got it up to 240 odd by the end.
Ket's just held his head and played out of his skin, getting 100, his maiden 100. And as I say, transformed it from, defeat, saved it and won it all in one smack. And then, as I say, we bowled pretty well after that. They, batted indifferently, but you would expect that basically when we'd done as much effort on the Saturday as we had.
By close of play, Essex were in a similar position to Yorkshire the previous evening. 5 wickets down, with 100 on the board and needing 248 for victory. Bowling on a rare turning wicket, Richard Stemp made sure there would be no escape.
I couldn't bowl slowly on there, and I had to actually push it through a little bit, sort of Derek Underwood style. And it worked, it did work. Groundsman, Andy, has got them to turn a bit, so I've slipped a little bonus in his pay packet for last month, and I can only see it getting better. We haven't got any of the low, slow outgrounds to go to next year. Scarborough's a bit of a batsman's paradise, but that's how you learn the trade, so next year's looking quite good already, for me anyway.
Essex, shell-shocked by events on the Saturday of the Championship game, were bowled out for just 108 in the Sunday League. Craig White ripped out the middle order, taking 4 for 21. At one stage, Essex were 56 for 8, so their final total was something of a recovery. David Byas carried his bat for the second successive Sunday, and Yorkshire coasted home in just 24 overs. That was Yorkshire's penultimate fixture in yet another competition that they came desperately close to winning. If Surrey had lost their last match and Yorkshire defeated Nottinghamshire, the title would have been theirs. But Surrey were always in control against Glamorgan, and Chris Cairns won the match for Notts to give them second place. A disappointing conclusion, but during the final stages of the competition, there was a memorable victory against Lancashire. The visitors made an explosive start, 56 off the first 5 overs, as Mike Watkinson hammered Darren Goughs on his way to 46. 2 wickets to White in his first over put the brakes on, and the next 10 overs yielded only 29 runs. Thereafter, wickets fell at regular intervals. In previous seasons, Yorkshire used an extra batsman instead of Richard Stemp, but with Paul Grayson departing for Essex, Stemp had made the most of his opportunities, and it was he who took the important wickets of Graham Lloyd and Neil Fairbrother. Yorkshire's collective team effort restricted Lancashire to 205, and when they came to bat, the crowd sensed that this was to be the captain's day.
I mean, I try to do that every day, but yeah, that was just one of those days when it worked, and we managed to achieve that. But we wanted a win over them. We would say you don't like coming second to them twice in the season, and it's certainly not 3 or 4 times, and Sunday League went very well.
David Byas carried his bat to record his highest ever Sunday League score, 111, as Yorkshire gained some modicum of revenge for those visits to Old Trafford. Lancashire may have denied Yorkshire success in 1996, but for the long-term future, there's much to look forward to. It's a young side, and one that won many individual honours in 1996. Darren Goughs, for example, headed the White and Mackay rankings.
Finished the season top English bowler, winning the White and Mackay, and that's without playing a test match. So that gives me great pleasure, really, because when you do play in tests, you do get double the points in the system. So to finish top bowler is a great achievement for me.
Always a bowler of immense promise, Chris Silverwood's career has been dogged by injuries, but a full season saw him realise ambitions beyond expectations. Young Cricketer of the Year and a tour with England to Zimbabwe and New Zealand.
I don't know what words I could use to sum it up, really. It's just been fantastic. It's been like a dream come true this year, really. It's unbelievable.
He's bowled well this year. He's been unlucky on a few occasions. He swings the ball out, and on his days, you know, slippery bowler, and he's got hopefully a big future in front of him.
Somebody once said to me that cricket's 90% in the head and 10% ability, which I suppose to a certain extent is true, because it's just no good sort of if you get hit for 4, moaning about it, you just get back to your mark and come in again. You just believe you can get a wicket next ball. So it's a lot of self-belief.
He's the perfect pro, so I mean, he just wants to play. He said to the head coach Plant, he said, one Sanford, he said, they'll never get me out of the side, which to me epitomises his whole attitude. He just turns up, gets on with the game, and that's, you know, other things worry about, you know, themselves. And, you know, it's credit through, you know, that attitude and effort that he's put in this season that he's got his, you know, his full England selection for the tour to Zimbabwe and New Zealand. I hope he has great success with it. You know, he certainly will. As I say, if his attitude stays as it has been with us, there's no reason why he won't get a place and keep it.
Nearly half of the Yorkshire team are going on England tours this winter. Michael Vaughan, Anthony McGrath and Craig White went to Australia with England A.
Michael Vaughan, Anthony McGrath, both had good seasons and you know, full of potential. Again, as I've said before, they can only get better. And you know, Craig White, sort of the back third of the season, has batted as well as I think I've ever seen him, and he seems to be getting stronger as well as far as bowling is concerned. So, you know, the future looks very bright, and as I say, hopefully the England lads can have a good winter and come back with a lot of confidence.
One of Yorkshire's strengths in 1996 was the stability of the side, and whilst this may be disruptive with test calls in 1997 and the likelihood of no Micheal Bevan, there's no shortage of talent waiting for the opportunity.
We've a lot of good players that haven't played, and you know, say if we'd had injuries or lack of form or test calls, you know, these other players would have been coming in and doing the job that the players, you know, that are replacing are doing. So yes, I mean, I think with strength in depth in all departments.
There is a definite feeling that all Yorkshire needs to do is win one trophy to break the barren spell, and others will surely follow. 1996 was a season when the team collectively came of age, and most of those players will be around for many years to come. David Byas speaks for many when he says that success is just around the corner.
Just another year, basically. I think you've said it. So with 5 players going on the international tours, obviously A-team and full tour, with players, Martin, who's played Test cricket, Richard Blake, who's played Test cricket, possibly Bevan's back, whatever, on the overseas. So I think another winter will be sufficient.
Meanwhile, who is the snipper?
I have a very good idea who it is, yeah.
I must tell something here. It's not me.
The favourite's got to be Anthony McGrath, who's always full of tricks.
No one's lined up yet, but that again was blamed on me.
I think it is Anthony McGrath.
But they seem to think I've got something to do with it, or Richard Blakey, who's another dark horse, Richard Blakey.
I think the main culprit is Richard Blakey.
I think actually stringing him out on the wicket and whitewashing his seamers.
I've got my own suspicions.
I have my own suspicions of people.
And he sometimes keeps wicket.
For some reason, yeah, I've been high on the list of suspects.
I've got my strong suspicion it is Mr. Blakey, but at the moment he's, I'm afraid, innocent until proven guilty, and we've got very little material to go on at the moment.
Still no one knows now who was the Phantom sock snipper.
There's only one prime candidate. I mean, everybody knows it. If it goes to jury, I'm afraid he's guilty, and that's Richard Blakey.
I wouldn't like to sound here, but no doubt you will find out what will happen to him when he's actually caught.